Alright everyone, welcome to another episode of Tip of the Week. Now this week I'd like to do something a little bit different, and I'd like to talk to you about using specific hardware with our software. Specifically working with Wacom devices such as tablets and Cintiqs. So the first thing to talk about is regarding the drivers that you're going to use for these devices. Now what happens is when you go to the store and you buy an Intuos tablet out of the store and you open up the box, it comes with a CD inside it, and that CD contains a driver that tells the computer how to interact with that hardware. But that driver is often out of date because they'll ship the CD with the box when the hardware is made, but it may be much later before they actually have incremental updates that are done, and you want to take advantage of the latest updates. So the first thing to do when you receive your brand new Wacom with you is to go to the Wacom website, and in the Wacom website, let's just go to the first one there, wacom.com, and from here now we can go to customer care and product drivers, and this is going to allow us to download the drivers that we need for our equipment. So the first thing is to select the tablet model, and I'm using here an Intuos 4, and select your operating system. I've got Windows 7, and then you can just download the latest one there. And I've already downloaded it, but just to show you, if you want to download it, then you can just hit download and then hit save file. Now when you download it, it's going to save it on your file system in probably your downloads directory. So I can take a look at where it was here. I can see there is my latest driver. I had a previous driver that I had downloaded a while back, so now I've got a new updated driver from this month. So it's a good idea to periodically check back and see if there's updates to the drivers. But now if I want to install this driver, then I can just double click on the installation, and then it's going to allow, and it's going to check out what's going on there, unzip the package. You will have to accept the end user license agreement, and then you'll have to go ahead and follow the instructions that come after this. Now if you already have a previous driver installed on your system, like I do right now, it will allow me, I think, to continue with this installation, but it's probably safer to go back and remove any previous drivers that you have installed on your machine first. That way you don't get any conflicts in your preference files. So if I want to remove a version or a driver from the system, then you can go into your control panel, and if you go into programs and features, then this is going to list all of the programs that are installed. And if we go down under Wacom tablet, that is where you can choose to uninstall that driver. And I'm not going to do that today because I know that I have the latest one installed. But if you do need to, you can just hit uninstall, and you can uninstall the driver there before you get started with installing this one. And after you install the new driver, it is going to ask you to restart the system. And you should restart it right away. Since I know that I've just already done that, I'm going to hit restart later because I don't need to do it right now. So that's the first step. The first step is uninstalling any previous drivers that you have on your system and installing the latest updated drivers off of the website for the device that you're using. Now once you have that driver installed, if you just go ahead and pop open any of our software, let's just take Storyboard Pro 3D as an example because I know I have that in here. So let's pop open Storyboard Pro 3D. If you just pop open the software and start using it, it might work just fine, but you might occasionally run into some, oops, I've already created that directory, let's just create a different one. I know those random names, it's crazy, I already have a directory like that. But okay, so now that I'm in the software, if I try out using my tablet, the main thing to watch out for is to make sure that you get that thick and thin, that pressure sensitivity on your tablet. Now sometimes you might not get the pressure sensitivity on your tablet, and there is a way to deal with that situation. So the first thing to do if you don't see pressure sensitivity is to quit the application. And we do need to quit the application when we do this, or restart the application after you do this. And then you can go into Wacom Tablet there from your Start menu and go to Wacom Tablet Preference File Utility. And here we want to just select Remove to remove all the user preferences. And then you will say yes and allow it to perform that operation. And so what it's doing now is it's just going through all of the user accounts and it's making sure to clean those up and delete any preference files that might be related to the driver. And then if I want to relaunch Storyboard Pro at this time, then if I had any problems with that pressure sensitivity, that should be gone now. One thing to be aware of is that sometimes you might see pressure sensitivity in other programs, but you don't see it in our software. And it's completely unrelated because we deal with the drivers in different ways. Every software application is going to deal with drivers in different ways, and it's going to touch different parts of drivers and use different things in the drivers. So if the pressure sensitivity is working in Photoshop, for example, don't assume that it's going to work in ours. If it doesn't work in ours, remember to go back and clear out the preference file utility. That is the magic thing to do. And now if I relaunch the application, I should have my pressure sensitivity back. There's a couple of other short things I want to say with regards to the tablets and having those installed. And if you go inside the Wacom tablet area here again, then there is another thing there called Wacom Tablet Properties. And this is where you can go in and adjust any of the properties of the tablet. You want to make sure that you do this after you've cleared out the preference file that was there before, because if not, anything you adjust in here is going to go back to default after you remove that preference file utility. So get the pressure sensitivity sorted out first, and then you can come in here and modify these. And so I usually like to set that other button to a middle click. I usually also like to adjust the functions on here so that I can set these to common keystrokes that I like to reuse a lot. Another handy thing to point out is the touch ring. And one of the things that people like to be able to do is to use the touch ring to actually rotate your workspace. And let me show you this over here in Storyboard Pro. So I think most of you know already that if you hold down Control and Alt, this is going to let you rotate your workspace. So one way of rotating the workspace with a tablet installed is you can set one or two keys to be Control and Alt, and then you can hold them down and you can click and drag just like you would when you're using a keyboard. But there's another way, and the other way is to use the touch ring. If you want to use the touch ring, you need to check out in your View menu these two options here, Rotate View Clockwise and Rotate View Counterclockwise. And they may not have a shortcut on them by default. If you do want to use the touch ring to rotate your workspace, you will need to assign shortcuts to these functions here. So to assign those shortcuts, we can go into Edit and then Preferences. And from here, we want to select the View menu since that's where that particular command is located. And now I can select Rotate View Clockwise or Counterclockwise, and I can select the key and I can hit the key that I'd like to use. So I can see that I've already set these to be C and V. So with that knowledge, now I can go back to my Wacom properties here and I can select a keystroke under Auto Scroll Zoom. And now I can set these to be C and V, and then I want to give this a name. I'll just call it Rotate Workspace. And now if I go back to Storyboard Pro 3D, I can just use my touch ring and I can show you how sliding my finger along that touch screen is now going to rotate that workspace. And it does rotate it in increments because it's rotating it with those functions that use the rotate command. And remember, you can always hit Shift M if you want to reset your view back to the original view. So those are the important things to understand about the tablet drivers. You want to make sure that you set the functions to be how you want them to be. You set the pen to be a middle click is probably a good idea. If you want to, you can also map the workspace on your tablet. Sometimes I like to map it to be a little bit smaller so that I don't have to do it as I don't have to draw over the whole surface of the tablet. I'm a wrist drawer, not an arm drawer, so I like to have a very small screen size there. But you usually want to leave, I think, the screen area on full and then the tablet area on portion, and then you can drag it to be a portion of your tablet if you just want a smaller space to work with. So those are some of the things that you can try doing with your tablet, and then you can get it all configured the way that you like to do. It's the same concept, by the way, when you're working with a Cintiq. The only difference is that you'll have a couple of different types of things that you can customize in here. And then the only other thing that you might run into as an issue when you're working with a Cintiq is that sometimes when you pop on these any of these tools that has nested tools underneath it, the tools might be opening up on the other screen. And if that's the case, then you just want to make sure that you set the screen that is your Cintiq to be the primary monitor. And you can do that either on Windows or on Mac. And when it's the primary monitor, then these tools will open up on the primary monitor automatically. So that should fix any problems you have with this Cintiq. So that's it for Windows, and then I'll just pop over and show you a couple of things on Mac. Alright everyone, so now I have switched over to my Mac, and I'll just discuss briefly here how we deal with using peripheral devices on Mac. So it's a little bit easier when it comes to doing these things in Mac because we don't have the same problem that we do on Windows about the conflicting preferences and having to delete that preference file to get back the pressure sensitivity. On Mac, when you want to access the drivers, then you can go to your system preferences in the Apple menu. Before we do that though, let's just make sure that we have the most up-to-date drivers on that for the tablet that we have. So we can go once again to the Wacom site or Wacom site, and we can go in here and find the driver for our products. So we can go to Customer Care Product Drivers and select the tablet model. So I've got my Intuos 4 and operating system, then I've got Mac, and here now I can download the latest driver, and I can see that there's one from January, so I can just download that one there. And now when I download this one, I can just double click on it to run it. And then I want to double click on the package, and then it's just going to determine if I can install it. So I can go to continue, continue, agree, and I'll just install it on my regular hard drive. You do have to have administrator permissions to install this, so you can type in your admin password. And then it's just going to go ahead and install the drivers there. And I did not have to, in this case, uninstall the previous driver that I had on here. It's just letting me continue with the installation. Alright, so now that it's finished the installation of the driver, I can go ahead and close all this. And I want to go to my system preferences to see how the driver is configured. So I can go to the Apple menu, then go to System Preferences. Now from in here, if I look at the bottom, there's something called Wacom Tablet in my Other. And when I go here, you'll notice that I get pretty much the same window that I had when I was looking on the Windows side. This is the driver that controls how I'm using my device. And you can see that when you have your driver, or when you have your tablet plugged in, that tablet will show up on the top and you can select it here. And now I can see the different devices that I have. So I've previously used two types of pens, so I can configure each pen to work the way I want it to work. Like I've got this one set to middle click, which is great. You might also want to specify the shortcuts here for the keystrokes that you want to use. And you can see that I've pretty much set these ones already to the different modifier keys that I like to have, like I need a dropper there, pan, undo, redo are handy ones to have. And if you want to, you can also set the functions here so that this spin wheel does something useful. Like it looks like I've got it set to zoom when the first light is lit there, and I've got it to rotate when the second light is lit. And then I've got the other ones to not do anything, and then I can hit the toggle there to switch between them. So that can be a useful way of setting things up if you want to be able to zoom and to rotate the canvas with your touch ring. So that's pretty much all that you need to know, and then once you've got that done, then you can run the application that you're interested in running and double check to see that everything's working correctly. So in this case I'll just open up Harmony and I'll pop open a scene file that I had opened earlier just to make things a little bit easier. And now that I'm in my scene file here, I can just select a drawing and I can try to draw in there. And we'll notice that I do get my pressure sensitivity. I get the thick and thin on the line, and I can also zoom in with my touch ring, and I can toggle to rotate the canvas, which is pretty fun. That's a fun way of doing things, and then I can toggle back to zoom. So it just, it's up to you on how you want to set up the configuration of your driver. We don't usually have the same issues that we do on Mac, on Windows, on Mac, which is the conflicting tablet preferences. One thing that you can run into occasionally is if you're using a Cintiq, then you might need to set up your Cintiq as your primary monitor. And if you have a Cintiq connected, then in your display tab in your system preferences, you'll be able to sort of drag the header on the top here over to your Cintiq, and that's going to help you to set that as your primary monitor. So good luck, everyone, and let me know if you have any further questions regarding installing peripheral devices for use with our technology, and then I can answer them. Bye.